Here's a number that stopped me cold. The average American only retires with about $270,000 in savings. But the internet will tell you that's a catastrophe, that you need $1 million, $2 million, or even $3 million or more to retire successfully. But in today's Financial Prof video, we're going to show you 3 different case studies based on 3 real people and how I helped them retire when they wanted to, spend what they wanted to, and with a few minor adjustments, live the retirement of their dreams. Because the number in your account right now is probably a lot more powerful than you've been led to believe. So, if this sounds like you or someone you know and you're worried that you don't have 7 digits or more saved for retirement, you're going to want to listen in to this latest edition of the Financial Prof series. I'm John Norbert, and welcome. Alright, so let's meet Margaret. She's 62, she's single, and she has $525,000 saved for retirement, $350,000 of which is in a traditional IRA and 401k, and $175,000 of which is in a money market savings account. Her all-in spending during these years is $55,000, which includes $5,000 per year for travel, which she's been looking forward to in retirement. By every standard internet calculator, though, she is in trouble. If she did nothing, her withdrawal rate would be over 10%, and the math says she'll run out of money somewhere in her late 70s. But here's what those calculators are missing, and I want you to pay attention to this because it applies to a lot of people watching this right now. Margaret decides to step back from her stressful full-time job at 62, and after having run the numbers, she decides she's going to take some part-time work at a local garden center, something she genuinely enjoys, which will bring in about $25,000 per year. She pulls the remaining $30,000 from her money market account each year to cover the gap. She does not touch her IRA or 401k during these years, not a single dollar. Now, I want you to watch what happens over the coming years. Her money market account is doing 2 things at once. First and foremost, it's funding her lifestyle gap. I mean, this is what savings are for, right? And it's earning a modest return. Call it 3%, which most money markets worth their salt right now are probably doing as of this filming. On the balance of it, this is not a bad picture. Perhaps even more importantly, however, this money market is keeping her completely out of the market during the years when a bad sequence of returns event could do the most damage. Meanwhile, her IRA and her 401k keep compounding untouched. At a relatively conservative 6% annualized return, that $350,000 grows to roughly $470,000 by age 67. The money market account, after 5 years of $30,000 annual draws, has about $30,000 left over, which will serve as Margaret's emergency fund going forward, covering about half a year or so worth of expenses. But here's the move that really changes Margaret's long-term retirement picture. By not touching the IRA during those 5 years, she's also been able to delay Social Security, strategically drawing off of her money market. At age 62, her benefit would be around $1,400 or so per month. But by waiting until age 67, which also happens to be her full retirement age, meaning her part-time work won't impact her Social Security benefit as it would have before then, this benefit rises to roughly $2,000 a month. If she were to wait until age 70, that's nearly $2,500 a month, a permanent 78% increase over her age 62 benefit. Now, that's not a trick, that's the system working exactly as designed, and most people tend to leave this guaranteed money on the table. Now, there can be reasons to claim Social Security early, and there can be good reasons to claim it late, too. And we've actually recently released a video about an early claiming strategy, but in this case, we're running the numbers as a late claim. Now, there's one more thing this strategy is doing that nobody talks about, and that is, as we referenced before, it's protecting her from sequence of returns risk. That's a danger that a bad market in the first few years of retirement can permanently derail your plan, even if the market recovers later. By living off of the garden center income and money market savings instead of her IRA, Margaret completely sidesteps that risk during the most vulnerable window of her entire retirement. Yes, it's true she might be giving up some potential return on that $175,000, but as a conservative investor, Margaret would much rather sleep peacefully at night than eke out a few extra percentage points. Now, by age 67, she retires fully. Her spending target is now $50,000 a year, as she's been able to do most of the travel in those early years. Social Security covers $24,000 of her expenses, and she needs about $26,000 from her IRA, a little over 5% on a $470,000 balance. But wait a minute, 5%? Isn't that going to wreck her retirement? That's way more than the 4% safe withdrawal rate. What's going on here? Well, here's what every retirement calculator tends to get wrong. And it's the reason that Margaret's plan works even at a withdrawal rate that looks way too high on the spreadsheets. You see, every calculator out there typically assumes you're going to spend the same inflation adjusted amount every single year for 25 or 30 years. And a lot of calculators fail to take into account things like RMDs, or even things like, if your income is high enough, IRMA, the income related monthly adjusted amount for Medicare. But here's the thing, that same amount for 25 or 30 years, even if you inflation adjust, is not what tends to happen in retirement. It's not. A JP Morgan study actually analyzed this data recently from over 4.7 million real households and found that average retirement spending starts higher early on and then steadily declines by 5 to 8% every 5 years. So that by age 85, the average American retiree is spending about 30% less than they were at age 65. Researcher David Blanchett calls this the retirement spending smile. You see, the spending is typically highest in the early go-go years, dips through the slow-go middle years, and then nudges back up slightly at the very end, due mostly to healthcare and end-of-life costs. So what does that mean for Margaret? Well, it means she's not drawing $26,000 from her IRA forever. As she moves through her 70s, her spending will likely naturally drift lower, and that withdrawal amount drifts lower right along with it. The portfolio gets more breathing room with every passing year, not less. That's the invisible tailwind that calculators never account for. As an easy example, if she's not going on trips every year, there are likely fewer expenses associated with travel. Now, Blanchett's research also found that properly modeling this spending curve, instead of assuming just a flat inflation-adjusted spending, can actually raise a retiree's sustainable initial withdrawal rate by nearly 17%. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between a plan that looks broken on paper and one that actually holds together in real life. You see, Margaret's 5% isn't reckless. In the context of how people actually spend in retirement, it's reasonable. And that same tailwind is running quietly in the background of every case study that we're going to look at today. And it's also why working with a good certified financial planner can be such a benefit, particularly if you're in one of these scenarios where the on paper version of your plan might look broken, because a good financial planner can help you model through the ups and downs, not only of the markets, but of what spending tends to look like throughout a real retirement, not a spreadsheet retirement. Now, I want to show you something that works completely differently, because Margaret's strategy was built around time and patience. The next one is about something that most people never think about, and that is where their money actually lives. All right, so let's talk about David and Linda. David is 64 and Linda is 62, and together they have about $700,000 saved. But here's the detail most people would gloss right over, and it's actually the most important number in their entire retirement plan. Of that entire $700,000, they have $420,000 in traditional retirement accounts, a 401k, and an IRA. They had heard that Roth was a good thing to do, and they're considering Roth conversions, but we'll get to that in the next case study. The other $280,000 in this case is in a taxable brokerage account. You see, this split didn't happen by accident, and it's about to save them an enormous amount of money, as you'll see. Now here's the concept, and I want to walk through this fairly slowly because most people have never heard of it. In retirement, your taxable income determines what rate you pay on investment gains. And here's the part that genuinely surprises a lot of people. In 2026, married couples filing jointly can have up to $98,900 in taxable income and pay zero, that is 0%, in federal taxes on long-term capital gains. That's the 0% capital gains bracket, and most people have no idea that it exists. You see, David and Linda retire at 65 and 63 a year later, and Social Security brings in about $38,000 combined for them. David does his claim at 65, and Linda waits a little bit to boost hers. They're going to need another $42,000 from their portfolio to cover the rest of their lifestyle. And here's where most couples make a mistake. They pull all or most of it from their traditional IRA, and then it all hits as ordinary income, and they pay full marginal tax rates on every dollar. This mistake could cost them tens of thousands of dollars over the next few years, dollars they'd never get back, not because they made some grievous mistake in not saving enough, but because they poured from the wrong bucket first. So instead, David and Linda do something different. They take $20,000 from the IRA, which then is taxed as ordinary income, and $22,000 from the brokerage account, and they sell appreciated shares that they've held for years. Their total taxable income stays around $58,000. Those brokerage gains are taxed at 0%. They get $22,000 of retirement income essentially tax-free. Now, do that consistently over a 20-year retirement, and you're looking at $80,000 to $120,000 in taxes that never leave the portfolio. That's money that stays invested, compounds, and dramatically extends how long their nest egg lasts. Now, I haven't even told you the most interesting part of their story yet. Linda's decision, you see, to delay Social Security while David claims early, that sequencing strategy alone could be worth $50,000 to $80,000 in additional lifetime benefits, depending on how long they both live. Now, I'll do a full video on Social Security claiming strategies for couples soon because it deserves its own deep dive, so stay tuned on the channel and subscribe so you never miss another video. But the takeaway here is that where your money lives matters almost as much as how much you have. A $700,000 portfolio split intelligently across account types could potentially outperform a $900,000 or even $1 million portfolio that's all locked inside a traditional IRA. Now, the third case study is different from both of these, and honestly, it's the one that I find myself thinking about and talking about a lot with clients recently, especially those who are in their late 50s or early or even mid-60s, because it's about a tax problem that's quietly growing in the background of a lot of retirement accounts right now. But before I show you that, let's just pause for a quick second. If you're watching this and thinking, I want to know what this looks like for my numbers, I'll put together a free, personalized 5-minute retirement plan video for people who might be in exactly the situations that we're talking about today. Maybe this is you, like I said. This video will not be generic. It's going to be based on your age, your savings, your Social Security picture, and your goals. The link is in the description and takes about 90 seconds to get started. I would encourage you to go below, click the link, fill out our brief form, and again, I will send that video directly to your inbox as a 5-minute retirement strategy that you can take actionable insights away from should you so choose. All right, let's talk about Robert. The takeaway here is that in our next case study, Robert is 58, he's single, and he has $850,000. Now, on paper or spreadsheets, he looks like the most comfortable of all three clients we've talked about today. Here's the thing. He's sitting on a tax problem that's going to get significantly worse the longer he waits. And most people in his situation don't even know the clock is ticking. Or if they do, they think about it as a future problem to be dealt with when the time comes. Or they dither around, never realizing that if they don't do something, this is going to hit them like a ton of bricks. So here's the picture. Robert has $750,000 in a traditional IRA and $100,000 in a money market savings account, again, earning about 3% a year. Now, that savings account is going to be more important than it looks, and it's going to act a little differently than in the last couple of case studies, so I'm going to come back to that in just a few seconds. But first, the problem. Every dollar in Robert's traditional IRA has never been taxed, and at age 73, the IRS is going to force him to start pulling money out, required minimum distributions, whether he needs it or not. Now, based on his projected balance, those RMDs could easily push him into the 22% or even 24% tax bracket permanently. And that could trigger higher Medicare premiums. Again, we referenced earlier the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, IRMA. It could cause more of his Social Security to become taxable. And it could leave a significantly smaller inheritance for anyone he cares about leaving money to. Now, the clock on this problem started the day he retired, and here's what most people do. Nothing. Again, they wait. They dither around and decide that future me will deal with that problem when it happens, and that's if they think about it at all. They let the IRA keep growing untouched until RMDs hit them at age 73 or perhaps 75, depending on your age. In our case, Robert is going to take action. He'll do something different, and this is where that $100,000 in savings becomes the key to the whole strategy. All right, so listen in. Robert retires at 58. He's not drawing Social Security too early. He's not touching the IRA yet. That would trigger income and waste the low tax window he's sitting in. Instead, he builds a spending bridge using two things, that money market account and some paid volunteer work he picks up through a nonprofit that he's passionate about. And he brings in about $15,000 a year. Combined with interest from the savings account, he's got roughly $18,000 coming in annually from those two sources. His total spending need is about 55 to 60,000 a year, so he draws that remaining 42 to 45,000 from the money market to cover the gap. By year 3, the savings account is largely drawn down, and he pulls a modest amount from the IRA to supplement, but still keeps the total income low. And while all of that is happening, Robert is converting. No, not to another religion. Robert is converting his IRA. From age 58 to 61, Robert converts $50,000 to $60,000 from his traditional IRA into a Roth. Here's the key detail. He withholds the taxes directly from the conversion itself. Yes, this is possible, so that he doesn't need outside cash to cover the bill. Yes, that does mean that the net amount landing in the Roth is slightly less, but it also means, key piece here, that the strategy is fully self-funded. No separate tax payment, no disruption to his cash flow. And I know that there are a ton of people around the internet who would like to yell at me and say, but that lessens the impact of the Roth conversion. He'll never recover the time value of money, etc., etc., etc. And while there can be a little bit of truth to that, particularly if Robert were to decease early, it still makes sense in his case. See, over those 3 years, he moves a little over $160,000 over to his Roth. And after taxes at about 12%, $145K lands in the Roth and grows tax-free from that point forward. No RMDs on Roth accounts, no impact on Medicare premiums when he draws, no local or state or federal tax on those Roth withdrawals whatsoever. And when Robert is age 80, that Roth account, at an assumed 6% annualized growth, will be worth roughly $440K. And every dollar comes out without touching his tax bracket. The RMDs on his now much smaller traditional IRA are manageable. His Medicare premiums stay manageable. And if he leaves a Roth to his heirs, they inherit that money tax-free with a full decade to allow it to stay in and keep compounding. The conversion costs and taxes he would have paid eventually anyway, just at a rate he chose in a window he controlled, instead of at whatever bracket the IRS decides for him in his mid-70s. Now here's the thing that keeps me up at night when I think about how many people are missing this. Roth conversions are most powerful in that gap between when you retire and when Social Security and RMDs kick in. For most people, that's your early to late 60s, maybe early 70s. That window's precious, and it closes fast, and most people let it pass without doing a single thing. So if that's you, again, I'd encourage you to click the link below, fill out our form. I'd love to have a conversation. But let's wrap this up by coming back to where we started. The internet tells you need $1 million, maybe 2 or 3. Margaret had $525,000. David and Linda had $700,000. And Robert had $850,000. None of them had a pension. None of them had any inheritance from a rich uncle that passed away. But all 3 of them are retired, spending comfortably, and with portfolios that are on track to last the balance of their full retirement. What made the difference wasn't how much was in the accounts. It was the architecture. Margaret's architecture was built around time and patience, using part-time work at a job she truly enjoyed, a money market savings buffer, and Social Security delay to protect her IRA during those most vulnerable early years of retirement and allowing it to compound till she actually needed the money. David and Linda's architecture was built around tax efficiency, keeping income low enough to harvest gains at 0%. And Robert's architecture was built around the future, using a savings bridge and paid volunteer income to fund his early retirement years, while converting IRA money to Roth at the lowest tax rates he's likely to ever see again. 3 different strategies, all of them built around the same insight. Retirement income planning is not about having the biggest number. It's about making the number you have work as hard for you as you did for it. And that retirement spending smile that we walked through after the Margaret's case, that invisible tailwind is running quietly in the background of every single one of these plans. The calculators don't almost never model it, and the most retirement content that you see online rarely if ever mentions it. But it's real, it is research-backed, and understanding it might be one of the most important and freeing things that you can take away from this video. So, here's what I want you to take away from this video. If you've been looking at your account balance and feeling like you're behind, like you're never going to catch up, like retirement is decades and decades away, if ever, that you'll die at work, well, you might actually be a lot closer than you think. The right strategy applied to your specific situation can make $500,000 behave more like $800,000. It can turn a tax problem into a tax advantage. And it can turn a retirement that looks marginal on paper into one that actually works in real life. Again, the link in the description will get you started on your own free, personalized 5-minute retirement plan video built around your numbers, your timeline, and your goals. Not a template, but a real plan in plain English in about 5 minutes or so. Again, I'm John Norberg. Thank you for joining me on this latest edition of the Financial Prof. And if this video helped you, I'd love it if you'd like and subscribe. And in the meantime, I'll see you out there.